Okay. Submit them as they come. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you very much for attending today the Latinx Foreign Direct Investment session. And we have members from Argentina, Brazil, and Chile and Peru who are going to give you a high-level overview, about 10 or so minutes, of what is happening in their jurisdictions. And we would like to suggest that if you have questions along the way, if you wouldn't mind putting them in the chat, and if there's time at the end, we can address them. And so with that said, I'm going to go alphabetically by country here. So I will turn it over to Hernan Camarero and Damian Navarro from Richards Cardinal Law Firm in Argentina.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alilo, for organizing this webinar, and to my colleagues too, who are going to speak and brief us about their corresponding jurisdictions in the FDA area. I'm Hernan Camarero, partner at Richards Cardinal Law Firm. I lead the financial services and fintech practice area, and also co-lead the M&A and corporate practice area. Our presentation has several slides. We shall not go into detail in each of them due to time constraints, but we wanted to share with you some information material for you to have it. So let's start. Damian, are you changing it, or shall I do it? Okay, great. I can see it now. Well, the first slide. Here we go. Yes. Well, I'm going to show you several charts, which the first one is a historic deal flow that spans 18 years. Just very briefly, we can see that the last 3 years, there's an average deal flow around 80 deals per year. We are currently in the low side of this chart, far from the historic peaks in this activity. Next one, please. Here you can see a breakdown by sectors, and basically 60% of the pie is made of deals in the services, banking, and industrial and retail sectors. That is in 2025. Then we have several charts that are published quarterly by the Central Bank of Argentina. We're not going to go into detail, but you can see that in the second quarter of 2025, top inflows of net FDIs are Spain, led by Spain, and outflows by Netherlands. You have the figures here, and you can take a look afterwards with more attention. This breakdown is by economic activity sector. Top ones, manufacturing industry, inflows and outflows, mining and quarries. Then how the FDI flows are composed. Again, second quarter 2025. You have a breakdown of the inflows, reinvested earnings, mergers and acquisitions, capital contributions, and outflows, mostly debt cancellations. And you have the net amounts on top of that. Then here you can see how the FDI, from an FX market standpoint, that is to say FX transactions, moved along last year. In this year, the trend of net negative FDI reversed, and with a around $180 million in August 2025, positive inflows in the local market. Now let's move into the generalities of foreign direct investments in Argentina. In general, there are no restrictions for foreign investors. There's a foreign investment law that dates back to 1976, quite old. Basically, it sets levels the play field for residents and foreigners. no major restrictions, free to invest. Argentina entered into several BITs to protect foreign investors. So, there's no prior governmental approval in general for FDIs. Of course, there are exceptions that apply. Damian will further explain that. And recently, the government has enacted the large investment incentive regime to boost FDI in several specific industries and sectors. Damian will expand on that. The exceptions, generally speaking, governmental contracts, concessions contracts by public utilities, telecom, and media. There are certain caps on foreign ownership in media companies, 30%. This is enacted by law. Also, in terms of acquisition of land, rural land, caps foreign ownership to 50% of rural land nationwide and 30% of it by same nationality owners. Also, there's a cap on the area that may be acquired by foreigners. Focusing on productive zones, and of course the prohibition, and I think this is general in several countries, to own land close to, adjacent to borders, coastlines, or large bodies of water. With regards to the investment regime that I have just mentioned, this is not strictly an exception to FDA. However, it requires the approval of the project filed to the government to enjoy the legal benefits granted by this regime. In terms of vehicles to funnel the investment, I think it's similar to other jurisdictions. We have two types. There are several types of of entities, but the most common ones are Sociedad Anónima Company and Sociedad Responsabilidad Limitada, LLCs. They may be incorporated by individuals or legal entities, Argentines or foreign. The difference are here depicted. I'm not going to get into that much. I think it's known. There are some distinctions and limitation on shareholders for minimum capital required in case of companies as opposed to LLCs. LLCs normally require more bureaucracy for certain handlings, and I would say that companies are the most common type used in Argentina for for foreign investments. So if you are a foreigner and you want to invest in Argentina, you have to register before the Public Registry of Commerce to be shareholder of a local entity. The very fact of registering as a shareholder doesn't mean that the entity or person becomes a taxpayer, a local taxpayer. It has to handle a tax ID, but again, it is not a taxpayer. The company, yes, it is a resident. It will have a tax ID and will be taxed as any other company in Argentina, incorporated in Argentina. So basically, the documentation required to incorporate the company is, articles of incorporations, bylaws, publications, to integrate capital to a certain percentage, minimum percentage, sworn statements, affidavits, disclosure of UBOs and politically exposed persons, etc. Then, a very important matter in Argentina is the FX controls. Probably you're very aware of it. We have them since the end of 2001. That is almost 25 years, with some period in which they were practically abolished. But nowadays, to understand this matter, you have to take into account several concepts. FDI, ownership of 10% of more stocks, voting rights for the purchase of land. There are capital controls and FX controls in Argentina. Central bank has eased them quite a lot in the last 2 years, but still they're in place. So, the concept of residence is important. Here it is. Here are the definitions. In general, for inflows of funds, there are no restrictions. The foreign currency may be kept in dollars locally. However, there are certain restrictions to access the market, to the FX market, for outflows. And again, these restrictions applies to payment of dividends and also to repatriation or liquidation of the FDI. So in terms of dividends, profits and dividends, the current administration paved the way for non-residents to receive dividends from their subsidiaries in Argentina. This is in case of profits earned in fiscal year beginning on January 1st, 2025, based on audited and approved financial statements, and this will be effective around May 2026, considering the time that companies need to approve their financial statements and declare dividends if there are profits. The issue comes with the previous profits, that is to say, prior to 2025. In general, central bank authorization is required. Central bank does not grant that authorizations. There are certain exceptions which are, I would say, abstract, because there's a cap on 30% of capital contributions that were transferred and converted into Argentine into pesos. This didn't happen in practice because due to the gap between the official FX rate and the informal or blue chip swap FX rate, it was a no-brainer to receive 100 pesos in Argentina, while through another transactions you could receive 140 and 150. So then what happened with the stock of dividends that were stuck in Argentina, not paid to foreign shareholders? Well, the government implemented and issued, the central bank issued a bond in dollars that could be bought with pesos, and that was considered by the central bank to cancel dividends, regardless of the fact that they were actually canceled or not between the parties. With regards to repatriation of the FDI, well, the general principle is that it needs central bank approval. It is not granted. There are some exceptions insofar as much the money came in and was converted into pesos. Basically, the principle is if you bring dollars and convert them into pesos in Argentina, you may be able to take them out through the FX market and buy dollars with those pesos. That is basically the criteria that applies the central bank. Here is there are different timelines or moments when these monies may be remitted abroad, as depicted here. I don't want to spend time in that. And with regards to the investment regime mentioned before, which grants a tax, custom, and FX stability regime, the SPVs, these vehicles, may be able to remit dividends abroad without restrictions.
Thanks,
okay,
Armand.
I give the mic to Damian Navarro. Thank you very much. Sorry for rushing, but
Okay. Here we are, the large investment incentive regime that promotes investment in strategic sectors such as forestry, tourism, infrastructure, mining, technology, steel, energy, oil and gas. Projects must invest at least $200 million, and it is required to protect local providers. The benefits include exemptions from import and export duties, regulatory stability for 30 years, reduced income tax, and flexible accounting options. In case of the project included in this regime, all the disputes could be resolved through arbitration, offering investors some legal certainty. In the case of the projects filed before the authorities, there are some projects already approved. Here is a list of all the projects that we know. There is over $9.3 billion committed in approved projects, showing a strong interest from local and international investors. In general, they are covering sectors like energy and mining principally, but there is to steel and logistics. Yeah, this regime that promotes large investment is really interesting in this year. Um, Additionally, the antitrust law is referred to all transaction with economic concentrations, especially when the business volume exceeds $75 million of volume. In this case, the notification to antitrust authority is mandatory, both for foreign transactions or local transactions, in case that they operate in Argentina. There are some exemptions, like acquisition of inactive companies or small transactions, no, below of $20 million. Finally, just to show some information about taxation in Argentina, there is a 7% withholding tax on dividends and branch profits, 30% rate on interest and royalty paid to non-residents. The corporate income tax is 35% and VAT is 21%. There are other local taxes, the turnover tax or stamp duty, that are relevant for industrial or commercial activities. We try to show high-profile information about investment in Argentina and the application of the Foreign Investment Act with Iran. My name is Damián Navarro. I'm leading administrative law department in our firm. So if you need any question or any assistance, we're happy to discuss at the end of this presentation.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Hernan, very much. We will move over to Brazil. Rafael Vega with Castellón Advogados to take it away. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Meg. Well, good morning to everyone. I'm Rafael Vega, one of the tax partners here at Castellón, and I'm doing the presentation today for the tax part and also for my colleagues with corporate and antitrust. A very, very quick overview on these other matters, but I would like to focus on, at the end of my quick presentation, I will focus on the tax reforms here in Brazil. That's why I'm doing the presentation today, because as you may know, Brazil is currently going through very large reforms in matters of taxation, mostly in a positive way. We are simplifying a lot, okay? But I will talk about it in a minute. Just a quick overview on litigation and antitrust. Regarding litigation, we are of course, Brazil has a very, very solid judiciary, and mainly when we are talking about foreign investments or even Brazilian investments, we are a country with a very reasonable stability in judiciary and respected agreements, and we have limited liability companies, and the agreements are respected, and so on. So the main question that you have to notice in Brazil is regarding to labor litigation. The labor litigation is the only part that there are several exceptions, and companies struggle a little bit because sometimes judiciary favors cases and in the direction of labor force. So it's the only area in which you have to watch out related to guarantees and limited liability companies and so on. But in general, it's very regarding to taxation and civil law and agreements and so on. It's very stable and solid and respect and so on. Also regarding taxation, the liabilities are usually pretty big. So we like to litigate a lot regarding taxation here in Brazil. So whenever you buy a company, whenever you see a balance sheet, it's very common for you to see a reasonably high amount of liabilities and litigation regarding taxation. But it's not a no-go. Usually, you just have the volume of litigation is usually high. in favor or against the company. That's all. Regarding the antitrust, a quick overview. Yes, we have an antitrust entity here in Brazil, which it's called CADE. And every merge or joint venture has to be submitted to CADE, especially if it is relevant, of course. And also the thing is that we are going to a phase that more and more you also do not only subject mergers, but also association agreements and JVs are more and more seen as transactions that have to be submitted to CADE, of course, and also acquisition, even in acquisition of assets. Sometimes if it is a strategic asset and so on. For example, China is now making huge investments in mining and so on, and buying mines. So of course it may be subject to antitrust regulation, right? Right now, I have a quick presentation that I want to share with you. Oh my God, it's related to the other parts of my presentation here. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Hope you're seeing my screen. All right. Can you see it? I'm sorry.
No.
Nope.
Yeah. Green arrow on the bottom.
Yeah. I just
Oh,
I've
it
just
just
done
might be delayed.
Well, sorry guys about that. Let's try it again. Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
Now can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Grace.
Yeah. All right. Right. You can see it, right?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, guys, about that. So related to trends, industry and trends. Of course, what is always on high demand in Brazil is commodities, right? Of course, and also banking and services and so on. But what we are seeing of what is new is the what we call investment in commodities like 2.0 commodities, which is not only a investment in mining and logistics and soybeans and so on, but also in for example in data centers and in green energy. So which is basically also a kind of commodity, but this is what we are seeing a lot now. So a lot of space. That there's a new regulation regarding data centers to bring them to make investments, and the investments are in line are pretty big, and also related to ammonia and green ammonia and green hydrogen. There are a lot of new regulation about that, and some incentives, and we are seeing a lot of movement and a lot of interaction, a lot of parties that are very interested in making investments and really investing, especially United States, United Arab UAE, right? So through Mubadala and so on, Germany, and especially China, of course. Right. So also regarding to direct investment, just as my colleague from Argentina said, this is similar in Brazil. So we have doing a very quick overview on doing business. We have a limited liability companies in Brazil. You can have a corporation. You can have a LLC, which we call limitada. And direct investments is really respected, and you can put your money in, you can take your money out whenever you want. There's no control there is oversight, but no control on forex exchange. So you can take your money back, you can make your profits and take your money back whenever you want. And this is just some quick overview regarding this. I'm sorry, I'm talking a little fast, but my timing is pressing. And this also regarding market opportunities, right? And this is a very, very simple, quick overview on what we are seeing mostly in Brazil. And just to end my talk, I would like to comment a little bit on Brazilian tax reforms. I'm sorry, guys, but it will be very, very quick. I'm sure you might have heard about it, but Brazil has a very, very complex tax legislation, and it's not only complex, especially on VAT or VAT alike on taxation on consumption. We are not only very complex, but we are very different from the rest of the world because, well, historic perspectives. But the thing is that we are changing it. So the taxation in Brazil is very complex. We have like five VAT-alike taxes, and the taxation on consumption is very complex, and we are doing it all over again. We are changing everything. We are ending 5 taxes, and we are building just like one asset tax and one VAT, one federal VAT with some particularities. Our rate is very high. Our rate is very high. The VAT rate in Brazil is going to be very high, but it is already high because this is not going to change. This is just a way in which we will take all of those taxes that are already being charged and put the same money in a new tax. It's a very VAT like OCDE like tax, so it will be very, very much similar to what you guys see in Europe and so on, right? It's a more modern tax. This is some quick overviews of ideas that I could talk to you about later on if you want to. And this is just the message that I want to say. This is a timeline in which the tax reform will be implemented. So the thing is that it's not linear, right? There's a federal part, then there's a state, a municipal part. But what I would like to say is that if you have investments that are already made in Brazil, they are going to be affected by this. You have to study again. You have to talk to your investment, talk to your company, and study a lot, because there are several companies that rely on tax benefits, that rely on special treatments, and all of that is going to end. We are going to be to build a system in which we have very, very few exceptions, and so you might as well see it again. And especially if you had an investment made in last years, perhaps you have an impact on earnout. You're going to have changes on EBITDA and so on. The results are going to be changed dramatically, right? And last thing, I promise. So now we are discussing right now. This is not a law already passed. This is a law that is going to be approved, like for I guess this week, because the Congress has already approved. Only the president is missing to sanction. This is a taxation on dividends. This changes a lot the things for investments in Brazil, because we used to have a high income taxation for companies. We have 34% income tax on companies and 0 on dividends. So if you're a foreigner, you put the money in Brazil and the profit goes free, 0 tax on dividends. Now we are going to tax dividends on 10%. And you say, well, so this changes a lot on my expected investment and return over investments and so on. But not quite so, because if you have paid the 34% of income tax in Brazil, then you can not have the taxation on dividends. Actually, what you have is you're going to withhold 10%, and then in the next year, the government's going to pay you back because you have already paid tax in the company. The thing is that usually companies do not pay the 34%. because 34% is of course, the tax rate, but there are a lot of tax benefits. So this is something like, if you have no tax benefits, then it's okay, you're going to withhold 10% and the government's going to give you the money back. But if you pay less than 34%, then yes, I'm sorry, then yes, you have an impact. So I'm sorry to be so fast, guys. I know it's a lot of information, but I've tried to compress it all. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rafael. That was great. So now we're going to move over to Chile to Ignacio Ortega with Ortega Gorziglia. If you'd like to share your screen.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see
Hello.
you and to having this in this meeting, this webinar. Well, we will talk about Chile a little bit. I will show you a presentation. I will send it to Meg afterwards so that you can share it. So please don't care about taking notes or nothing like that. So let me share my presentation. Please tell me if you are watching the presentation. Are you?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, excellent. Well, we are talking about foreign direct investment in Chile. First of all, I would like to say something about some figures. And the figures are the following. In last year, well, first of all, Chile is 18 million persons, inhabitants, 18 million. The GDP, the gross domestic product of Chile, is $330,000 million. Okay, 330,000 million dollars. And the figures about the foreign direct investment last year in 24, it was around 13,000 million dollars. 13,000 million dollars. In 23, it was almost 22,000 million dollars. That was in 23. In 22, year 22, it was 18,000 million dollars. So that are more or less the numbers every year of foreign direct investment each year. The main countries investing in Chile is the United States, about 15%. And then you have Spain, Netherlands, United Kingdom, and Italy. Each of them are around 6%, each of them, of the total investment, foreign direct investment. China is coming. It is getting more percentages. And what are the economic sectors that receive this foreign direct investment? First of all, it's mining. As you know, Chile is mainly a mining country. So 27% of the whole foreign direct investment goes to mining. Then to energy, 40% goes to energy. And there we have financial services, 11%, and that it comes the other sectors. Well, Chile is very far away from centers of consuming, and so Chile is an exporting country. Chile has a free market-oriented policies, and so that's what we are talking about now regarding foreign direct investment. So we do not have any limits regarding the economic sectors where you can invest. There's no limits on the amount of money that you can bring here. And also, the only exception is that for citizens from neighbor countries cannot buy land in the in the borderlands areas. That's the only exception, which is quite normal in many countries. And we have two main venues where foreign investment can come down to Chile. One is the foreign investment statute, and the other one is the central bank chapter. It's called Chapter 14. First, the foreign investment statute is a law. So it has that hierarchy is a law. It's for investments that are equal or above $5 million US. On the other hand, you have the Chapter 14 of the Chilean Central Bank, which is not a law, it's just a regulation. The Chilean Central Bank is completely independent authority. It's not dependent on the government nor anyone. So it can enact its own rules. But those rules is a lower ranked than laws. So you have more legal security in a law rather than a mere regulation. But the Chilean Central Bank is not politically driven, is completely independent for more than 30 years right now. So I will talk about these two venues of how can you bring in foreign direct investment into Chile. First, I will refer to the foreign investment statute. First, who are eligible? Well, non-Chilean individuals or legal entities not domiciled in Chile, and also can be Chileans domiciled or residing abroad Chile, okay? So it's very open, it's very the definition of a foreign investor. The minimum threshold is $5 million US in value. That investment can be bring as a foreign currency, also in the reinvestment of profits. If you do an investment, then you got profits in Chile, you reinvest those profits will be considered as a part of your foreign investment. Also credit, you have a credit from abroad and you capitalize that credit in the and you convert it into equity in a Chilean company, though that foreign credit is also considered as a foreign investment. Also technology, if you bring down technology, in all these cases must be above $5 million value each. You can capitalize technology and also credits associated with a foreign investment. So sometimes the foreign investor brings down to Chile capital contributions and also some credits. Well, both are considered as in the definition of foreign investment. So that are the forms where you can invest. And you have repatriation rights. You can repatriate your capital and your profits, your dividends from the very beginning. No time limits. Just you must pay the Chilean taxes on the dividends. Okay, once you pay the Chilean taxes on dividends, then you can repatriate it immediately. Capital that was brought into Chile, that was invested, is tax-free. Okay, so if you bring down $5 million, you can repatriate $5 million without any payment of any tax on those capital contributions, okay, on the capital investments. How is the procedure? Is very straightforward. First, when you bring down those forms of investment for this above this $5 million, you must request a certificate from the Foreign Investment Promotion Agency. It is called Chile Invest. That's the name of the agency. Once you prove that you have bring down those investment, then you have a formal recognition in a certificate stamped by this agency. And the advantages is that you have a legal framework that protects you and gives you certain rights. So I will refer now to the rights that you get. First, capital repatriation. As I mentioned, you can repatriate your capital without paying any tax on the capital, and you can repatriate it from the very beginning, the day after it was brought into Chile. And regarding dividends, the same, as far as you have paid the Chilean income tax, which is in this case a withholding tax. Okay, I will refer to that afterwards. Second right, you have the right to not being discriminated. So if that happens, if you are discriminated, or if there's any nationalization or whatever expropriation, you can go either to the Chilean courts or to the ICSID, International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, under the Washington Convention, which Chile is member since the 90s, so for more than 30 years. Chile has had very few cases under these ICSID rules and arbitrations, and has lost only, if I think, just 2 cases. It's about 6 cases, and we have lost just 2. So we have in our legislation this national treatment, so foreigners are not discriminate, but you have this right as a legal right. Third, you have access to the formal exchange market. What is the formal exchange market? Is that market constituted by Chilean commercial banks, and also for by Bureau de Change, exchange bureau, authorized to exchange dollars and foreign currency. So you have the right from the very beginning to use that commercial banks, that foreign exchange market, and to also to have the exit. It's very straightforward. Okay. And there is some, well, the capital itself, it's exempted, as I mentioned before. So that's very important regarding the rights that you have under the Chilean foreign investment statute. If you are bringing down to Chile just currency, just foreign currency, and it's below $5 million, and it's above or equal to $10,000, then you can go through the compendium or the rules of exchange rules of the Chilean Central Bank, which is going to be amended next year, but it's mainly it's a way to inform the central bank the money that you're bringing down to Chile. It can be capital contributions, it can be loans. We will go through that right now. This is a way just to keep the central bank informed of the currency coming into Chile and also the currency going out of Chile. So the new threshold that will be started in January next year is $1 million. Okay, so it's like a platform, a digital platform. It's no more than that. Okay. And well, what are the key issues regarding these regulations from the Chilean Central Bank? First, you need to appoint the foreign investor a commercial bank or exchange houses authorized to operate there. Then all the payments must be done through these banks, commercial banks of exchange houses. You have to make a report to the Chilean Central Bank, and you have freedom to exchange the currency into Chilean pesos and Chilean pesos into foreign currency and expatriate it. The Chilean Central Bank, according to its legal statute, has the right also to impose what we call encaje, which it's a percentage of the amount bring down to Chile as a zero interest deposit for up to 1 year. This is to avoid speculative investments. Chile applied this many years ago in 1997, but just once for one year and something like that. It was when the Asia crisis occurred many years ago, 30 years ago, but it was an exemption. I mean, the Chilean Central Bank has the right to do it, but it really never does it. So we have a completely free exchange rules with nothing like. There's 3 pillars from a tax perspective. One is we have, as a general overview, Chile has 45 double taxation treaties or agreements with different countries. We have this foreign investment statute that I mentioned, that you have tax exemptions on the capital that you bring down to Chile. And there are some specific tax regimes for certain extreme zones. In the very north of Chile, in Arica, in the border with Peru and Bolivia, and also in the very south, in the Strait of Magallanes. And this is they have some exemptions on the tax perspective, which are applicable to all investments, It doesn't matter if it's foreign investment or domestic investment. So that's something to have in mind. And as I mentioned, Chile has 45 active double taxation agreements with many states. There's the map over there. But we also have bilateral investment treaties. We have more than 30, with more than 30 countries, bilateral investment treaties. What is the importance of these bilateral investment treaties? Based in the model of the OECD, is that if there's any discrimination, if there's any regulatory expropriation or any laws, the foreign investor can sue the Chilean state under the ICSID convention, okay? So there's arbitration under the Washington Convention. So which is very good. Something about the taxes, and I'm ending now. It's that the Chilean income tax, we have income tax for Chilean companies as a general rule is 27%. Small companies has a temporary regime, but I will not get in that, is 27%. But then you have a withholding tax of 35%, which is applicable to foreign investors. But on this 35% that you have to pay, or withhold in Chile, in the dividends distributed to foreign companies, foreign investors, you can use as a credit, there's 27% already paid by the Chilean company, okay? So it's 80% at the end. There are some royalties regarding some licenses and intellectual property, software and things like that, which is 30%, and in some cases, 15% of withhold tax. In international in loans, foreign credits, there is the general rule is 35% on interests, but if it's a non-related bank and under also other fulfills other requirements, general rules, you can have a withholding tax of only 4% on the interests paid by Chilean debtor to foreign creditors. And there are also some services that also are subject to, in the general rule, 35%, but some cases 15%, depending on each case. So that's mainly the tax rules on foreign investors. As a summary and ending as a conclusion, well, you have this regulatory regime in Chile. I would say that if you go to any economic sector in Chile, most of the companies are foreign companies, are affiliates of foreign companies. Mining, agriculture, salmon industry, wine producing, telecom, financial services. So it's a very open economy and very stable because the Chilean activity is based on mining, and mining needs a long-term view and stability from an economic and political perspective. There's a capital flexibility, and you have free access to repatriated funds. So that's something that for you to bear in mind. It's very important. The exit rather than the entrance sometimes. Well, if you got to get in touch, I'm sorry, Christian, who is below me, is my partner is supposed to do this presentation, but he was captured in a closing that's supposed to be signed yesterday, but it continues all the way up to now. So that's why I'm replacing it for this time. That's my presentation, and I would like to say you thanks for this and stop sharing.
Thank you, Ignacio. Thanks for stepping in. And we have
thank you very much.
Sure thing. Last but not least, we have Oscar Ezeguirre from Santillán Abogados. If you would like to make your remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Meg, Sandra, and Alailo, and my colleagues, and everyone here. I apologize in advance because I'm gonna have to be very fast in my presentation. Can you see my screen?
Not quite. We can't see your presentation.
Okay.
Yep, now we can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I will go really fast. We have a short time, but me and my colleagues at Santibáñez will make ourselves available for any question that you have regarding this matter. Well, my name is Oscar Izaguirre. I'm an of-counsel at Santibáñez Abogados. My main practice is corporate banking and finance law. Well, just get started. As a way of introduction, I would just say that due to a strong combination of macroeconomic stability, trade openness, foreign investment protection, free foreign exchange for transactions, and really a strong legal framework that we're going to get into some detail in the next slides. Peru is a highly attractive destination for foreign investments, and this has been shown by the growth that we have had in FDI in the last years, particularly in from 2023 that we saw a recovery. Just to give you a general framework, legal framework, as I mentioned, we are a very FDI-friendly environment we have here. And well, the constitution of Peru that was approved in 1993, it stated that there is equal treatment for foreign investors as if they were nationals. So there is no difference there. There is no possibility for discrimination on that regard. There's free flow of capital and repatriation of profits. There's freedom of enterprise, and competition is also guaranteed by the Constitution. We'll go into a little bit of oh, sorry. Can you? Sorry. We'll go in a bit of detail about that. The main legislation, of course, our Constitution. There are, in addition, a couple of laws. Legislative Decree 662 and 757, which promote foreign investment and provide general framework for private investment. The main authority regarding in relation to the FDI is called Proinversión, which is an acronym for Private Investment Promotion Agency. In the regional context, according to the World Investment Report published by the United Nations, the FDI flows to Latin America and the Caribbean decreased by 12% from year 2023 to 2024, and the decline was even more pronounced in South America, up to 18%. And in that context, Peru almost doubled the result from 2023 in 2024, raising to 5.9 billion. Sorry, and in 2025, we're looking at approximately 7.5 billion. So the trend continues to grow. Here's a couple of graphs. I just move forward. You can. Well, FDI government clearance is not required here in Peru. Of course, as in other countries, there are a few restrictions, particularly investments located within 50 kilometers of the international borders or natural protected areas, and in some particular sectors like weaponry, explosive, maritime or transport. But it is very standard in the region, I guess, for what I have just heard. Going very quickly to taxation and structuring investments. The legal vehicles that can be used here in Peru are basically the ones stated in the Peruvian corporations law. There are various options for choosing the type of company that foreign investors can choose from. And of course, the main focus is on limited liability companies. And the form of company will depend on the type of governance that the investor is looking for, or the amount of shareholders that are going to be involved in the company. There is no restriction for full ownership of companies, meaning that 100% of a company can be owned by foreign investors, and that's a question that we get asked a lot. There is also no restriction for appointing foreign representatives, board members, officials. The only special consideration is the representative that companies need to register before the tax administration, which needs to be has to be a person domiciled in Peru. So in case anyone would want to choose a foreign person, he will have to get the proper immigration status. There is no minimum capital requirement, and the procedure for establishing these companies is very straightforward. It should take maybe a couple of weeks. There is a need for registration before the public registry. We have to go through a notary public before that. And once the company is fully registered, you have to go through to obtain a tax ID number, which is a very quick procedure. It's done within a day. Now moving on to some modalities of FDI investments in Peru. I would say the most uses is through concessions or asset-based projects. But there is also a big push for public-private partnerships and works for taxes. This is not new, but we're seeing a big push on this, basically for closing infrastructure gaps. So these are very interesting options to explore for any foreign investor. Now, moving on, I'm going to just refer quickly to two mechanisms for protecting foreign investors or some benefits. The first one, and I think the most robust, the legal stability agreements, which provides a stability for tax regime, the regime of free availability of foreign currency, and the right to non-discrimination. This is very important because once you get when you execute the agreement with the Peruvian government, then you will have 10-year. The regular term for this contract is 10-year, but if you get into the concession agreement, then your stability agreement will last for as long as the concession lasts. So this is very good because not only you can make the right projection, let's say, but also it provides a lot of security that the rules of the game are not going to change during a fixed term. There's a minimum investment requirement of 5 million. In mining, the threshold is a little bit higher to 10 million, and the investment has to be made within 2 years after executing the agreement. The other mechanism I was referring to is the early VAT recovery, and this applies basically for projects that have a pre-operational stage of 2 years or more. And this, of course, apply to any sector, and it gives you the investors or the companies the chance to recover the VAT before they start making sales, which is very, very, very good to have. Then I will not go into this, but since 1990 we have executed 33 VITs, and the region you'll have the presentation to review the countries with which we have executed the bilateral agreement investment treaty. Sorry. The same with foreign trade agreements. They started a little bit later with the FTA with the United States that was executed in 2006. And that opened the door for more FTAs. I'm sorry to go so fast. Well, on the judicial system and dispute resolution, the judicial system here has its own challenges. So with these projects and foreign investments, usually the contracts include arbitration clauses. Arbitration can be local or international. The state and public entities may submit their disputes to national and international arbitration as well. And it is important to mention that concessions and legal stability agreements often includes ICSID arbitration clauses. And we have been very active in ICSID, and this is part of the robust system that I was referring to at the beginning. A very important matter is that the mention is that ICSID awards are recognized as final judgment of on Peruvian courts. So and just a quick note that whenever Peru has lost any arbitration, any international arbitration, the rulings have been recognized and Peru has complied without the need of any additional proceeding. I will just skip that. These are some figures from Peru in the ICSID that you can review at a later stage. As I mentioned, we have been kind of active there. Regarding antitrust, if there is an authority called INDECOPI, which is in charge of merger control, the process only triggers if the threshold, individual threshold is 25 million or combined threshold 163 million. And this is a prior review. So INDECOPI, which is the name of the competition authority, needs to approve the transaction prior to the execution of the transaction. And the operations that may constitute the concentration and would be subject to this merger control would be mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, or other associated contracts. And of course, the purchase of productive assets, as it was the case in Brazil, if I remember correctly. This process is not that long for our bureaucracy standards. So it has basically two phases, and in phase one, that takes about a month. If the concentration, the criteria of Indecopi, the concentration does not produce a significant restriction on competition, then they approve the transaction and that's it. But if there is a risk, then they go to phase two, which take about 4 months. And this is a quick chart on the results of the authorizations. Most of them has been authorized, and in most of them also in the first phase. So it's a very, very fast process. And I should say that Indecopi is very efficient in those reviews. So finally, the current industry trends impacting FDI in Peru. I think, of course, the main economic activity is mining, and it will continue to do so. There are very big projects here, so it's a huge area of interest. But as I mentioned in the beginning, there is a big infrastructure gap in the country, and that creates a lot of opportunities in other sectors as well. It can be transportation, water and sanitation, health, telecom, energy, education. There are also very sensitive sectors in which we have a huge gap. And one of them also, energy. Sorry, I thought I hadn't mentioned it. So we have a big gap there. Just to end the presentation, just a quick note about energy, which is one of the main practices here in the firm. And there is a lot of opportunity here as well, not only for improving reliability and expansion of and covering electricity demand, but also because of the energy transition and sustainability. So again, I'm very sorry for being so fast. And that's pretty much it. That we'll be available for any questions that you have.
That's great. Thank you, Oscar, and thank you to all of our presenters today. There was a lot of wonderful information that was shared, and also that is in your slides, which we will be distributing to this group and to those who registered and couldn't attend. We'll also be promoting it in our newsletter along with the recording of the meeting. So thank you all very much for your effort today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one. Goodbye.